About fasting. Whenever you fast, do not put on a gloomy face, as the hypocrites do, for they neglect their appearance, so that they will be noticed by men when they are fasting. Truly I say to you, they have their reward. He says that they will do it, but not yet. There was a point at which they were not fasting and a point at which they began to fast more. What is that transition there? Well, it wasn't essentially the time to fast where the bridegroom was personally there with him, but that doesn't mean that fasting is a good practice. Generally, it is.
Right.
Yeah, it must be the difference. I mean, that's an interesting question, isn't it? Which is the new covenant as opposed to the old covenant. He's bringing the new Torah in 5 blocks. The key point, the new wine goes into new vessels, new people, the new covenant. So fasting is fine. There's no problem with that. But it isn't appropriate when the bridegroom was actually there in their very presence. So that wasn't the main point. What we're trying to get over to the public is that you are supposed to be following Jesus. And evangelicals have been misled when they've been told that Jesus was under the law of Moses keeping it perfectly. He wasn't. If Jesus was under the law of Moses keeping it perfectly, why aren't you following him? You don't have to be under the law of Moses and keep the Sabbath and the holy days and circumcision in the flesh. That's obviously false. So our proposition here brings you closer to Jesus. You can say Jesus is actually a model Christian in the true sense. Jesus himself was not under the Torah of Moses in the letter. He is actually bringing the law to its real point, which is higher than the law of Moses in the letter. This is a huge concept that you need to tell your friends everywhere about. Yes, there was one annual fast, the Day of Atonement, in which the whole nation had to fast by compulsion. Otherwise, fasting was as and when, by choice. And I see it. And there, of course, are good reasons health-wise to fast from time to time. There are all sorts of things we can say about this, but get hold of a good integrative doctor, somebody who's been trained, but who also understands that what you eat and what you don't eat is very much a factor in your health. So there are spiritual reasons, of course, for fasting. That's absolutely clear. But you don't want to make it a public thing. Is that the idea? You don't want to demonstrate this. Oh, look at me. I'm great. I'm fasting. No, I think that's probably what he has in mind. And they did obviously fast more than once a year by choice, but they made a display of it. So the key point here is, are you demonstrating your righteousness before others so they can say how wonderful you are? Or are you doing this before God? And Paul, of course, would be very diplomatic. If somebody asked him to keep the Day of Atonement, I'm sure he'd do it, because that's a diplomatic thing to do. Key text that everybody should remember, we won't turn to it, but 1 Corinthians 9:20 is demonstrably a brilliant text. Paul says that I, Paul, am not under the law. I'll be under the law if you want me to be. I'll be a diplomat, but I'm not under the law, but I'm within the Torah of Messiah. There's a difference in the Torah of Messiah. This is what we are treating as our standard, and must treat as our standard. Jesus then was a Christian. Not if by that you mean what goes by the name of Christian now, I don't mean that. But Jesus is modeling the true Christian lifestyle. 1 Corinthians 9:20, everywhere in your Bible studies, go over that Paul was not under the law, but within the Torah or law of Messiah. And we were greatly mistaken in Armstrong days when we were told that that meant, oh, Paul wasn't under the penalty of the law. That was an absolute hoax. We were taken in at the most basic level by a grand mistranslation on that passage.